Thank you very much. I'm Freya Williams, the co-founder and director of strategy for Ogilvy Earth, which is the ad agency Ogilvy's global sustainability marketing practice. And I've spent the past 5 years trying to crack the rather difficult problem of how you create mainstream demand for more sustainable products and services. Turns out this is a little trickier than one might think. It's pretty closely related to what we're here to talk about today. At its heart, both of these are questions of how you get people to do things that are actually good for them. Much harder, as it turns out, than getting them to do things that are really good for them. That are really bad for them. And we actually, when it comes to sustainability, we figured this would be kind of easy. There was a point about 2.5, 3 years ago where there was a new administration coming in. We figured they'd fix the policy. Manufacturers were all putting out green ad campaigns and green products, and we figured the supply's there. And in research, 70, 80, 90% of consumers were telling us they were demanding green products and services. They wanted them to be provided, and they were planning on buying them. So we kind of sat back and waited for this mainstream demand for these sustainable products and services to emerge. In fact, so bullish were we on the prospects for mainstream sustainable demand that we penned the rather pretentiously entitled 2009, a pivotal year, Sustainability at the Dawn of a New Age, in which I declared that sustainability was now mainstream. Well, I think we can all agree now that that might have been a little premature. Unfortunately, that demand has really failed to emerge in the way we thought it would. And what we found is that actually, when it comes to mainstream consumers, there's a large and fairly persistent gap between what they say they're going to do, what they know they ought to do, and then what they actually go and do when it comes to behavior and consumption. Very unfortunate. Let's look at it another way. What you're looking at here is the US population plotted on a spectrum from super greens at the top to green rejectors at the bottom. And the super greens at the top, that's a little around like 20% of the population, just under 20% of the population. These are people, they don't have a gap between their intentions and their actions. They want to go green, and they're very green. At the bottom, the green rejectors, no green gap there either. They've got no interest in sustainable consumption, and they don't follow through on it. Well, they follow through on their intentions. They certainly don't go green. In the middle, we have what we call the middle green. This is about 2/3 of the US population who are the mainstream consumers. And this is where the green gap exists. These are the people who say they have all the best of intentions, but they're really not following through on them with their behavior. And what's interesting about this spectrum is that typically what you see in marketing is that there are some early adopters. In this case, that would be the super greens. They kind of take the nettle and start doing things early, and they're closely followed by the early majority, the late majority, and before you know it, a phenomenon has become mainstream. This is what we thought would happen here. But I've been looking at this for 5 years, and these numbers have not substantially budged. That middle green, that mainstream consumer, has proved surprisingly tenacious in holding on to their existing behaviors. And they're just not moving. And obviously, I believe very passionately that we have to move them if we're to create these mainstream sustainable behaviors that we all know need to happen if we're going to move forward. And so I called on my colleague Graceann in Chicago, who's the head of planning for Chicago. She's also our sort of global consumer expert on mainstream behavior. And it was really putting those two perspectives together that we began to crack the code on how we make sustainable behaviors mainstream.
Okay. So we knew we were talking to you about food. We're trying to close the gap. The green gap includes a lot more than just better food choices. But we wanted to assure you that all these findings really apply to the issues that we're talking about today. So we looked at all types of behaviors, green behaviors, from recycling to becoming vegetarian to eating less processed food. And this is kind of where you fit with the super greens on the continuum of things that people are actually doing. So you're kind of behind the reduce, reuse, recycle kind of mainstream green behaviors that are coming before some of the food behaviors that are just kind of lagging behind. But again, all of this kind of fits into human psychology and getting people to do things that are good for them. So a lot of these apply to all the issues that we've been talking about today. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of the adventures or misadventures along the green continuum. What happens when you start to try to make better choices? So one thing that we found in our ethnographies and our quantitative research, people enter into the green continuum, and what we say is they kind of take a bite out of the big, juicy green apple. And they take that bite, just like Eve, loss of innocence, flooded with guilt. So once you do one you take a bite of this apple, you lose your innocence, and then everything starts to make you feel guiltier and guiltier and guiltier. So you're not rewarded for taking good actions. You're actually punished because now everything that you do, from taking a long shower to eating the wrong foods or whatever, all of a sudden makes you feel guilty because you have this greater consciousness. And one of the big things that we really were surprised with is that there's a huge social cost of being green. And we, as marketers and people in the green movement, always like to think about being green and making better choices. That's a badge of honor. That makes us cool. We're going to be different. We're going to be special. Isn't this great? And wouldn't everybody want to have this badge and wear it proudly? No. People want to be normal, and that was shocking to us. We thought, you don't want to be special, you don't want to stand out, you don't want to be virtuous and wear this with pride. No, they really would rather be invited to the block party and just fit in with their friends and not really wear that badge at all. So that was like our whole thinking shifted us around. And so I'm going to show you a clip from this woman. She's a super green, she lives in Chicago, and she's talking about what it's like being a vegan at a Chicago neighborhood barbecue and how she's treated by her friends and family when she makes these green choices.
You know, they'll be like, you know, we'll have some mud for you at the barbecue, and then I can just be like, well, that tastes great on twigs, you know. People are assholes all the time about it.
So we thought, okay, this is more of a problem than we thought. It's not so fun being green all the time. And another thing that was curious is that we talked to men and women around the country, and men, we never thought about this, but men were really kind of hesitant about kind of jumping into this green movement, and there was more of a social cost for them than even women. And the one thing that struck us is they'd always talk about those little reusable shopping bags, and they would talk about the walk of shame when they'd go from their car to the grocery store and they'd have to kind of hide the bags, or they were in their office and they talked about how they'd shove the bags and try to hide them. We thought, you're hiding the bags? I mean, really? Is that big of a problem? You feel so girly being green, but it really was one of these things that struck us. And here we go with some men that we talked to.
That is one of my downfalls. I don't really like carrying around canvas bags, you know. Sometimes it's a little bit easier for girls to use it because they have their purse already, so they can just throw it in there. So I do think that I can improve on that.
I don't know, like when I walk around, like even if I walk like this, it looks, I don't know, it's kind of embarrassing. It looks like a man purse. I'm just like, so like, it feels kind of like,
Anyway, so we thought, okay, are we crazy? Are these just a few men that we talked to? So then we went out and did quantitative research. We asked a nationally representative sample of men and women along the Green Continuum. Is the green movement, is it more masculine or feminine? And 82% said it's more feminine. So we're like, okay, this is interesting, something that we need to address as marketers. The other thing that we looked at, and I think we've talked about this a lot today, is that when you go shopping, we talked to a lot of these people, if you go shopping, you try to make the better choice, you're basically just slapped with this de facto sustainability tax. You're like, wait a minute, fine, tax my Twinkies, tax my sugar soda, tax cigarettes, tax alcohol, but you're gonna tax me for making better choices. This doesn't make sense, you know, and why am I being punished for this? And this is sending the signal that these behaviors are not normal. It's not for me. So if you just kind of look at things, and there's no exact science here, but you're shopping for a car, you can pay a 16% price premium for a Prius, 17% for some laundry detergent. You're going to buy eco-friendly denim that you know goes up in terms of a price premium. Organic milk, you're going to pay 48% price premium. Eggs, you're going to pay more money for that. And then even in cleaning supplies, you can pay up to 100% price premium if you're going to buy the more eco-friendly version. So this is a problem, and this is also just hindering this idea of it being normal and getting to what Freya was talking about, that 66%. They're not going to jump on board if they're going to be taxed for doing something that's good for them. Another thing that we asked is we said, okay, who are these green products targeted to? So we're in marketing, we're always the bad guys. But anyway, we we're targeting people. Americans are thinking, who are these targeted to? Well, they're targeted to either rich elitist snobs or crunchy granola hippies. And most people in the world, unless you live in certain parts of America, are not rich elitist snobs or crunchy granola hippies, nor do they want to be badged with that and walk around and feel that way. So again, another signal to say, this is not for you. This is for someone a lot richer and a lot crunchier than you are, not for you, normal Joe Blow person. So at the end of the day, it's too weird, too girly, too expensive, and really at the end of the day, it's not normal. And again, shocking to us because we never want to be normal, but most people do. And this is a problem when it comes to trying to drive demand for better choices. So what is the recipe for norming better behaviors? And really, it's great to talk to a group of people like yourselves because you're looking at the policy angle of this, laws, legislation, and we're looking at psychology. And it really is a combination of those two things that's going to crack the code at starting to norm better behaviors. And it's also the right policy and the right psychology, and we have to get both of those right. You brought up smoking. This is one of the things that we looked at and we thought, what was the secret here? 1965, 42% of Americans smoked. And there was lots of education. There's huge warning labels on cigarettes. They taxed cigarettes. They cut down the advertising of cigarettes and took it off TV. They had, you went to school, and I'm sure you saw this when you went to your education classes, second grade. I remember seeing pig's lungs filled with black gook, and I knew, yes, it's bad for me. And there's all these studies that would link cancer to cigarette smoking. So it's undeniable that smoking was bad for you. It wasn't until smokers got kicked to the curb and were social outcasts and had to smoke their cigarettes in the snow or getting wet or get out of the restaurants or feel like a loser outside smoking that they dropped, and now they're around 20%. So that is interesting. Another thing is don't listen to consumers. So I always tell my husband when I say something crazy, don't listen to me when I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, don't listen to consumers when you ask them would they like a law to legislate kind of better behaviors. If you ask them if we should tax Twinkies, they're going to say no. Thank you. So in the United States, we ask them, would you like to have guidelines and then you make decisions yourself, or would you like the government to take care of that so you don't have to think about it and you'll make better choices? So 85%, no surprise, said, just let me decide for myself. The surprise was when we asked people in China, which are used to the government telling them what to do, and that actually works to norm behaviors, the Chinese didn't want to be told what to do either. So if you ask human beings if they want to be told what to do, and if they want laws, they're going to tell you no. So we say ignore them on some regards because they don't always know what's good for them, and laws can be one of those things that can really enable good change.
Thank you. Next up, we've heard a lot about price today, but we have to kill the sustainability, or in the case of health, the virtue tax. Price premiums create both material and psychological barriers to participation. First of all, if you're the Walmart shopper who has on average $65 a week to spend on groceries, you just can't factor a 100% price premium into your budget, no matter how much you might want to. At the same time, as we've seen, these price premiums are sending the signal to the everyday consumer that these are products for rich elitist snobs, not for you. So we're excluding them from the get-go. Normalize the price, and you normalize the product. I'm oversimplifying, but you get the point. What you're looking at here is the apple and the Twinkie. We've heard about these products a lot today, funnily enough. This is something that refers to something that Walmart's trying to do. They noticed that the apple is much more expensive than the Twinkie. They're trying to normalize that price. Now, what we're not putting out here is a plea for cheap at any price. We know that's not the right solution. What we're really talking about is a combination of smart policy that stops incentivizing the bad choices. We're talking about asking corporations to do some creative accounting on the back end, so what the consumer sees is just normative pricing across the portfolio, and then, of course, smart marketing to inspire that demand. So let's kill the sustainability tax and remove one of the barriers to mainstream demand for these products. Second, we have to lose the crunch. Just because it's green or healthy, why does it have to be packaged in burlap? Now, for many of those of us in the room, I include myself in this, it may come as a surprise to learn that packaging like this on the, what's that, that's your right, actually is sending a signal that this is a product that says, hello crunchy granola hippies, goodbye mainstream. right there, but you've lost them. What we need to do is get rid of this type of packaging that's sending the signal that there's going to be some kind of compromise involved here, some kind of quality trade-off. And the sacrifice is really the key word. This kind of packaging creates a narrative of scarcity for the mainstream consumer. It says this is a worse product, not a better one. Whereas what they want to engage in is a narrative of abundance. So we have to change the narrative, lose the crunch. And some brands are getting it really right. This is Method, a brand of household cleaning products, probably familiar to many of you. Instead of sustainability being their lead thought, they've used sustainability to reinvent a modern era of cleaning products. I've got 2 children. When I had the first 5 years ago, if I wanted to give them organic baby food, and yes, I'm a working mum, I have to rely sometimes on baby food, I would have to ferret around in the back of the local health food store to find a jar of unappealing brown sludge that was the only currently available organic baby food. Cut to last year, when I had my second child, suddenly I walk into Babies R Us, and there's a whole ground floor full of organic baby food, called cool things like Plum Baby, Sprout Baby, in beautiful clean pouches with great design and fantastic combinations like purple carrot, and so forth. And what those guys really have done is reinvented the organic baby food category in a way that makes it much more mainstream. As a result, organic baby food grew 18% last year compared to fairly flat results for the rest of the organic category. What they've done is taken organic baby food out of the niche and into the mainstream, primarily, I believe, by losing the crunch. Next, tap the testosterone. We have to get better at marketing sustainable and also healthy products to men. There's little in the way we currently market these products to pump the blood of the red-blooded American male. Think, if you will, about car marketing. The way we market sustainable cars right now is to call them girly names like the Leaf. We make them cute and curvy and rounded, and we market them with ads with children waving flowers and men being hugged by polar bears. Now, most of the guys I know, I don't know about you, would rather be hugged by a smoking hot babe than a polar bear. So there's a reason cars are marketed this way. There's a reason they're marketed with cars driving much too fast around hairpin bends on driving courses in Switzerland. That's what encourages men to buy cars. So let's understand those mainstream marketing tropes and apply them to the products we're trying to sell here, healthier or more sustainable choices. This here is a Tesla. It's the Ferrari of the electric car world. One of these drove past us on 6th Avenue the other day. My husband's jaw hit the floor, and I thought, Houston, we have a solution. Okay, we're sustainable. This is our plea for sustainability or health by stealth. We've somehow confused the desired outcome with the marketing strategy. Just because we want people to become more sustainable or become healthier doesn't mean we need to slap it all over our products and our marketing. In fact, by doing so, we may be killing the very mainstream demand we're trying to create. So this is our suggestion that we put that away. In our world, it means banning the G word. Perhaps in yours, it means banning the H word from marketing communications going forward. It's worth a try. Maslow's hierarchy, much overused in marketing presentations, but in this case, it's somewhat instructive. This is really what came to us as we looked at all these results, is that somehow we seem to imagine that when it comes to healthy or sustainable behaviors, human beings park human nature at the supermarket door. They don't. It comes in with them just as it does in all kinds of other products and services. So we need to understand that. What the mainstream consumer really wants to know is, am I normal? Do I fit in? Am I like everybody else? Not, am I different? So we need to embrace this in our understanding of how to market these products. Think about beer marketing. If you're trying to sell a niche beer like Stella Artois, you sell it with a posh lady sitting on a pedestal, quite literally. If you're trying to sell a mainstream beer like, let's say, Budweiser, you create the now very famous What's Up campaign, showing guys in bars with their friends looking popular. Sustainability marketing, and probably also health marketing, needs its Budweiser moment. Mainstream marketing is what drives mainstream behavior and mainstream demand for products and services. So let's bring everything we know about that and apply it now to these products. And for those of us in marketing, that means really taking a bit of a fresh approach, rejecting some of the things we hold very dear and learning to love the normal. Because normal is not a dirty word, nor is it a boring marketing strategy. Normal is popular, normal is mainstream, and above all, normal is sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you.